Hello, everyone. Have you ever been writing something for a technical report and felt like your sentences are just a little too long, a bit wordy, maybe even a little clumsy? Well, today we're going to fix that.
Hello, students. I'm Miss Hassan, and it's great to have you here. In this session, we're going to dive into a really powerful grammar trick that's going to make your writing sound so much more professional and sharp. It's one of those things that really makes a difference.
Because, let's be honest, that's the goal, right? To communicate complex ideas clearly and efficiently. Mastering this technique will help you do exactly that. So, let's get right into it.
So what is this magic trick? It's called a reduced relative clause. Now I know, the name sounds a bit technical, maybe a little intimidating, but trust me, the idea behind it is actually super simple. All it is, really, is a way to trim the fat from your sentences. You take a normal clause that starts with words like who, which, or that, and you shorten it. You just chop out a couple of words. The best part? The meaning of the sentence stays exactly the same. You're just making it more elegant. Let's look at a quick example to see what I mean. On the left, you see the router which connects all devices. And that's totally fine. It's grammatically correct. But now look at the right, the router connecting all devices. See how much smoother that sounds? It's shorter, it's punchier, and it just flows better. That's what we're aiming for. Okay, so there are a couple of different ways we can do this, and it depends on whether the original clause is passive or active. We're going to start with the easy one, passive clauses. The rule here is incredibly simple. Step 1, you find your passive clause, something like which is created or that was designed. Step 2, you literally just delete the pronoun and the be verb. So which is? Gone. That was? Gone. And what are you left with? Just the past participle. That's it. For instance, look at this. The full sentence is data which is stored on central servers. We spot our passive clause, which is stored. We take out which is, and what do we get? Data stored on central servers. So much cleaner, right? Let's try one more. The network which was built becomes the network built. See the pattern? It's just about getting rid of those extra words. This is a super common thing you'll see in all kinds of professional and academic writing. And you know what? You've already seen this in action. In the reading text for this module, there's a sentence that says, data transmitted across a VPN is protected. Well, guess what? That's a reduced clause. The full version would be data which is transmitted. So you're already reading and understanding this stuff. Now you just need to learn how to write it. All right, so that's how we handle the passive ones. But what happens when the clause is active? When the subject is the one doing the action? Well, the rule is a little bit different here, so let's break it down. Okay, for verbs in the present simple tense, it's a three-step process. First, you find the clause. Second, you remove the pronoun, like which or that. And third, this is the important part, you have to change the verb by adding ing to the end. Let's look at this one from your text. The protocols which govern communication. First, we get rid of which. Then we take the verb govern and change it to governing. And now we have the protocols governing communication. It sounds really sophisticated, doesn't it? Now, what if the verb is already in the continuous form, with an ing at the end, like is running or was processing? Well, this is actually even easier. It's just like the passive rule. You just remove the pronoun and the be verb, and you're done. For example, employees who are working becomes employees working. We just snipped out who are. The ing was already there, so we just leave it. It's that easy. Okay, now this next part is absolutely crucial. We've talked about when you can reduce a clause, but it's just as important, maybe even more important, to know when you cannot reduce a clause. This is how you avoid making mistakes. So here are the two big exceptions to the rule. You cannot ever reduce a clause if it starts with a preposition like on which or in which, and you also cannot reduce a clause if it has a modal verb in it, like must, can, should, or will. Here's a perfect example. The clause is on which the internet is built. Because it starts with that preposition on, we can't touch it. It has to stay as it is. If you try to reduce it, the sentence just falls apart and makes no sense. So why can't we reduce clauses with modals? Well, think about it. The modal verbs carry really important meaning. Protocols which must be configured is totally different from protocols which can be configured, right? One is an obligation, the other is just a possibility. If you reduce them both, you'd get protocols configured, and you would lose all that essential information. The meaning gets destroyed, and that's why we just don't do it. All right, that was a lot of information, I know. So let's just take a moment to put it all together in one quick summary.
So here it is, everything in one table. Think of this as your cheat sheet. For passive clauses, you drop which is and you're left with the past participle. For active present clauses, you drop which and add ing to the verb. For active continuous clauses, you just drop which is and keep the ing verb you already have. And of course, the big one to remember, you cannot reduce if you see a preposition like on which or a modal verb like can be.
Okay, so there you have it. That's the theory. But the only way to get really comfortable with this is to practice it yourself. So now it's your turn. I want you to head over to the activity in your module, go through the exercises, and it'll really help all of this sink in. Good luck, and I'll see you next time.